How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Fourever Arsenal podcast. Hope everyone is all good and well out there. Jordan, Lee, and James back in the building. How's it going, gents?
Yeah, surreal, very surreal.
Good brother.
Yeah, well, first things first, football has been postponed. Obviously, everyone knows by now the Queen passed away the other day. And off of the back of that, some sporting events have chose to cancel this weekend's activities and maybe for the next week coming too. And the Premier League is one of those governing bodies. What do we make of it all? Jordan, let's start with you.
Obviously frustrating. I think it's clear to mention, as you just did there, that obviously the Queen passing, a level of respect has to be observed. How that respect is observed is obviously causing conjecture. Do you postpone games? Do you have to put them on but honour it with a minute silence, or black armbands, which I imagine will happen for the next 12 days anyway. I'm actually doing the piece after this recording that into sporting fans being a bit annoyed about some sports, if you like, your kind of blue collar sports, your footballs and your boxings have been called off or been postponed, but yet the likes of golf and horse racing are allowed to continue. So there's a lot of, even within the sports fans and sports world, a lot of division around consistency and fairness. But yeah, from a footballing point of view, it's very, very frustrating. I wasn't shocked, but I think I put in a few groups I was in that when it was confirmed that she had passed, that expect games to be cancelled. A lot of my friends were like, no, why? And I'm like, it's not about why. You have to understand how much this country loves the Queen. And if you understand how much this country loves the Queen, you'll understand that the national sport, at least, I was pretty confident they will not play this weekend. They just won't. I'm reliably told that the way it works is the sporting bodies were all, they didn't have to postpone fixtures and games this weekend. They didn't have to do that. It was down to their discretion, but they were advised. They were advised by the palace and government that, we think it's probably best that you don't, but we're not going to force you. We can't force you. But it felt like one of those ones where we're not telling you to postpone, but we kind of are. One of those kind of situations. So yeah, it was left to the sporting governing bodies to make a decision, and the Premier League and the EFL decided they feel it's best and respectful to not play games this weekend. The knock-on effect now is that the funeral, I think, is on Monday or Tuesday. There's going to be another 10 days of national mourning. So that means then that next weekend's fixtures are probably going to be postponed as well. And then you go into the fact that the following weekend, I believe, is international break. Now that causes impact for the World Cup schedule. Now, that's not the Palace's problem. That's not the government's problem, but it's a Premier League and a World Cup problem. So there are implications to games being postponed. But my thoughts are, I don't think they should have been postponed, but I'm not surprised that they are.
Equally, FIFA can turn around and say it's not their problem.
Exactly. It's not a World Cup problem. Yeah.
It does cause the past couple of seasons have had issues where games have been postponed and they've had to juggle a schedule around, and they've somehow made it work. But this season in particular, the season started early for the World Cup to be played midway through. It's already ending, I believe, a bit later than usual because of the World Cup. So it's very tight as it is. So I'm intrigued to see how they're going to fit in if it is two fixtures, because I've also heard two fixtures. I know someone that works over at Brentford, and they've already been briefed that next week's game against Arsenal won't be going ahead. So if they've already been briefed by that, we should expect the news to come out soon enough anyway. But two Premier League fixtures in a tight schedule like this, I'm not too sure where they're going to fit. I doubt they fit before the World Cup, that's for sure. But James, you just said, wow. What's your thoughts on it all?
Well, first and foremost, so I've done a couple shows now, from full time to then the reaction with Robbie yesterday on AFTV when the games were postponed. I've had a lot of time to actually absorb what the social media world thinks, speaking to a lot of other people, seeing what journalists have been saying. First and foremost, it is the passing of Her Majesty the Queen. This is the leader of England. This is a monarch, and I do think it's right. Well, and by the way, I will say that I'm not one who's paid great attention to the royal family all my life. I've largely not really paid massive attention, but I've always had a lot of respect for the Queen. And I think it is one of those things that there's always going to be time taken, and in my opinion, rightly so, to really, mourn her passing and show our respect. I think, however, when I take everything into account, I think this could have been done. I think we could have done both. I think we could have helped the fans who have had their travel arrangements, who have spent a lot of money, who, like I said on the show yesterday with Robbie, not everyone can afford to just be told, oh, you're going to miss this game. You're not going to get your money back on accommodation and travel. Sorry. Not a lot of people can't just brush that off as, oh, okay, I'm not going to get that £100 back, or listen, 100 being nice. That's if you're traveling maybe a couple hours across the country. For a lot of people, it could be a lot more than that. And I think we could have gone ahead personally, paid huge tributes this weekend, and then next weekend taken a week off. And yes, the schedule's tight, but you make it work. But I do understand. I can get why they made this decision, and ultimately, I think either way, listen. I'm finding it hard to find the words. If I'm being completely honest, I would have gone ahead this weekend, and postpone next weekend. But I can understand why the decision is being made. I can't imagine they're easy. And if what Jordan said is true, especially that they said, well, we can't force you, but national sport, and then they kind of don't really have much of a choice. So I guess we'll discuss what this means from an Arsenal perspective soon. But this is a massive thing that's happened, and there was always going to be, I think, a big change, over the course of the weekend to honour what's gone on.
Lee, obviously this weekend's fixtures have been cancelled. It sounds and most likely that next weekend's fixtures are going to be postponed. Right decision, wrong decision, impartial?
Look, listen, I'm as everybody knows from Thursday, I'm very much for the Queen and country and things like that. And but I just think this is poor decision making, and the reasons being that they've already said that midweek games in the Europa League and Champions League are going ahead. So why are you cancelling games in the Premier League? Two games, but it's all right for games to be played in the midweek. I just think it's again just tells you it's not for what respectful wishes, is it? Because if it was for respectful wishes and things like that, then Thursday's game wouldn't be on as well.
Just to answer that, Lee, sorry. I mean, they would argue those are European bodies.
Still playing in England, though.
That's true, but they're European-run competitions.
I get that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. But what I feel it is, and I don't know how people. It's just my it suits when it suits. You know what I mean? Like, and I just think like next games. I said on a tweet that I'll be if these games are called off, and I get why they're being called off. I've got no problem with them being called off. I'm saying if that's how they feel, then fine. Do I think they should have been played? I do think it should have been for people like myself because I'm not going to go down to Buckingham Palace. I'm not going to do this, but it would have been my time to show my respects and show my minute's silence or a minute's applause at a game of football. But where the situation is now is that, and this is where I'm going to get the ump because I tweeted it the other day. If those England games go ahead, I'll be fuming. I will be fuming if those England, because they're the games that should be called off for me. Because I'm, English and things like that. Not just England, by the way. Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, sorry, and Wales game. They're the games that should be called off for respect. They won't be. They won't be called off. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, I do feel is, I feel that if the Queen, very very sporting, I don't think she would have wanted games to be called off. I know that when my dad passed away, you know what I mean, didn't want me to not go to games. You get on with your life, do your football. You know what I mean? Like, so I do think that is there. And the other thing is, and James has said, just touched on it. There's a lot of like fans, and it's not just fans like myself. Because I can go to a game next week. It don't matter. Like when they put the game on next, it doesn't bother me. Like Everton, it go to a midweek game. That's it. But people like maybe flying over from America, might be flying over from foreign people for one weekend. This is their weekend to watch their football. it's been taken away from them. Like now, I don't know if when the government turn around and go, yeah, right, you call it off. Okay, that's fair enough. You know what I mean? But you're going to burst these people? Of course you're not. You know what I mean? Like, so I do feel that there was a moral side of it as well. For the people, for the English people, for people of the world as well. So I just feel that I understand it, but then again, the thing that twists me a little bit, and I'm sorry, I know like Jordan's saying about that, he's saying, right, yeah, we'll call this game off, we'll call off the next game because it's probably going to be, I think, like I'm hearing rumours it's going to be next Monday. Is it that right, Jordan? You might know better than me, but it'll be next Monday or Tuesday of next week. So the Brentford after I think the 19th or the 20th. That's what I was sort of told. And we get a bank holiday on that. Is there, like, So, but for me, it's a difficult one. I get that with it all, but I honestly think that it would have been for the people and everything like that. People love their football, people love their sport. The Queen loved their sport. I honestly feel that she would have probably said, "No, let's celebrate." And that's what I feel. I feel like I'm missing out a little bit of not being able to celebrate what has been a wonderful reign for our country. 70 years, and I think that's fantastic. The only monarch that we've ever known, and I feel now that that's been taken away from me for a little bit.
I think
that was your platform.
Sorry, to respond to a couple of points Lee makes there. I guess two questions that kind of pop up from a lot of this as well is the first one is, so first of all, I'm not a monarchist, and I'm not for the Queen, but I respect everybody else who is right to grieve and to go through their process. But the two questions that pop up is, if you're not going to postpone sport for when the Queen dies, then when would you postpone sport? And the second question to that then is, well, why do you have to postpone sport for any death? Because if you're not going to do it for the Queen, then that would basically mean then we're not going to postpone sport for anybody in this country. So I think from a point of view of from the Palace's point of view, they're probably looking at it, well, this is not like a famous celebrity. This is not like a well-loved athlete. This is the most famous person in the country, arguably the world. And if we're not going to postpone, I'm with you, Lee. I think that they should play, but just to be balanced, they'd probably look at it like, well, it's the Queen. Come on, if we could understand if it was a lower royal or a celebrity, maybe, but it's the Queen. The other thing is there are a lot of people that I think are pro the Queen and are monarchist that also think football and sports should be continued to be played as well. So what about those sports fans? And then my final point is, on the flip of that, there are millions of people in this country who love the Queen and will be mourning and will think it's the right decision to postpone. It's not only sport, by the way. There's lots of activities happening across the country, more important than sport, that are being postponed. But there'll be lots of people, Turkish, that have got bigger issues right now going on in their lives than the Queen passing. Let's be very, very clear. The Queen passing, for many people, is very sad and very painful. But she's 96. It's not a shock. It's not a shock. And some people say it's not a shock. If you get past 90, you're doing very, very well and you're coming to your last few years. So there's a lot of people in this country that are asking, in a cost of living crisis, there are more important things happening in this country right now than a 96-year-old woman, albeit the Queen, passing away. So I think all these things have to be considered as well to kind of really get a temperature of the country and how they feel. There are people that are pro-Queen that think that the cancellations and postponements are actually wrong. So it's a messy one. I think that you're not going to please everybody all of the time, but yeah.
You know what? It's a great point. But I'm very much for the Queen and all that, But I'm not going to mention people, but people that are not. You know what I mean? And they've actually said to me, I don't even know the woman, and now they've taken away my football and everything like that. And I'm going, well, it's a little bit more than that. Is my argument. I get that, but that's what you're doing now. Is there's the monarchy is a very, very balanced situation. Not a lot. I'm very, very surprised by these last couple of days. How many people have come out and said, "I'm not for it." I've been very, very surprised. You know what I mean? Like people that I know quite well have said, "I'm not really into that." And now you go all of a sudden now. it's affecting my life. And I said, what do you mean by that? So they said, well, you know, like all of a sudden, when I tell you what someone said to me, which is a great point, really, to a certain extent. When my mum died, the Queen didn't stop doing what she was doing. And now, because the Queen's died, I've got to stop what I'm doing. Now, that's what a lot of people are thinking, you know what I mean, out there, like, you know. So it's a real tricky balance. And I get where people are coming from, you know, what to do with the right thing. Like, and do you know what? I'm going to just say it, like, you know, I don't care what other people think and whatever. I'm just going to say what I feel. I'm very much for the monarchy. I'm very much for the Queen. But I do think the football should have gone on this weekend. That's my opinion. And I don't think really a government person should be telling me, no, you shouldn't be going football this weekend, or you're not allowed to go football this weekend. And then I see like the cricket going on today, the golf going on today. Like, you know, I mean, you know, it is a bit of a funny situation. I ain't going to lie. It's a very, very awkward situation for everybody, I think.
I think when other sports are going ahead, you know, it does relieve a lot of football fans with that sense of, I think the RFU put out a statement that I think resonated with a lot of fans, and they understood, you know, they were saying this is what we wanted for our sport, for football. I think as I was listening to everyone, I've got to be honest, I was like talking like a bumbling idiot in the first part of this podcast, because I still really now kind of struggle to really know how I feel and what I'd want out of it. And I think the conclusion I ultimately came to is, if we lived in a perfect world where everyone could have everything refunded and it didn't matter, and people could keep their weekends ultra busy without the football and be happy and everything's great, then I'd say, you know what, yeah, take a weekend off, because let's pay our respects by just, you know, slowing everything down for a weekend or whatever. But we just don't live in that perfect world. We live in a world where people have made financial commitments, where a lot of people depend on this for their weekends. A lot of people don't enjoy their weeks and their weekends, and they're seeing their mates at the football, and all that is a big part of their lives and their community and everything. And for other people, it's work. For other people, they had shifts this weekend that they need covering because they're going week to week. And that is a reality. We don't live in that perfect world. If we did, I'd get it. I'd say, yeah, of course, put it off. It doesn't matter. We'll come back to it. But we just don't live in that perfect world. And that's where it gets very tricky. And I'm not, again, saying it was an easy decision. But I lean towards it should have been played. And then maybe next weekend you can find a solution that works for much more people.
Did someone say that horse racing still on? That surprises me, because I would have thought horse racing would have. I know the Queen is like, or the Queen was not an ambassador, but the face of. Well, she had a very strong connection to football, basically.
To horse racing.
No, to football.
She's an ambassador for the FA or something, and she's saying to do with the FA. That's why I think maybe that they decided.
But horse racing, it's so.
Well, she owns. That's probably her favorite sport. That is her sport.
That's
actually,
her
horse
passion.
racing. Yeah, she owns several horses. I think she's an ambassador for certain races as well. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I don't think whatever they did was gonna be happy. Was gonna please everybody, whatever it is. I mean, I just feel that on balance, there are more people that were pro continuing with things than stopping things. And as I mentioned, a lot of those people are actually like Lee, are pro Queen, but even they feel like the best way would have been to have continued. It's an operational thing as well. This is why next weekend's games are being impacted, because things like policing, most of central London is going to be shut down and require massive. And I think even parts of outer London where they're going to be having certain things going on, screening the funeral, that sort of thing, that's going to require massive policing in a time when we're under policed already, sort of thing. So I understand, and I'm probably leaning towards James. I get why next weekend's games can't go ahead. But this weekend, I mean,
that policing issue is a sorry that policing issue. And while I don't have any of the data here with me, but that is one that I can really sort of get behind and understand.
You can relate to it.
Listen, there's a lot of people around the country who are even not next weekend, but this weekend are traveling to pay their respects and do what they've got to do. And you just need the resources to be able to handle everything that's going on. So from that perspective, that for me would I wouldn't say it would end all arguments, but that's a massive point. Ultimately, if it's not safe to run a lot of these things, then that's another point. But I don't know how much that was a driving factor. Sorry, Lee, what were you going to say?
No, I relate to that, and I've got no problem with that. Like, if the funeral, there could actually be the funeral at the weekend. It could be over a Saturday or a Sunday. I think they're leaning to a Monday because of bank holidays or something. I don't know, but I concur with that. I think that when it comes to the funeral or I get that. I think that everybody should be a little bit more respectful for that, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. And it's also if they say, look, right, you got the bank holiday, they're going to make it a bank holiday. I get that. Listen, you're never going to make everybody happy because I've got people that are self-employed and going, well, I don't want it to be on a bank holiday because I'm going to lose money. You know what I mean? I'm still going to go to work and all that. So you're never going to please everybody. Let's get that straight. You're never going to please everybody. I get that. But I just think that, you're taking away, everybody's had to go work this week and done their full week's work. Looking forward to the weekend of doing whatever I want to do, whether it be going cricket, football or whatever. Next weekend, it would have been a little bit of more of a, well, you know what's coming. Like you've got to go to work next week. You know that you're going to have the game called off. So you can get your head around it a little bit more. And I just think that, in a world now where you've got to think of the people, like the Queen's for the people and all that. I don't think they really thought about the people this weekend. You know what I mean? Like, they should have just said, right, let's get it all out. Next weekend, we everything's going to be shut down because of that. And I think people would have gone along with that a little bit more. That's my opinion. But, like we've got 2 games without Premier League football now, which is going to be a big problem. And I've still got the problem. That they're going to call off games, but it's all right to play games in the week. You know what I mean? Like that is a problem with me. I think that's not, if you're going to call off, if you're calling off games next week and this week and next week, why are those games going ahead? And the reason those games are going ahead, and it's nothing to do with the Queen, it's because it's financial. We've got to get them in before because it's Europe and all that. And I think that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Go on. Well, the games have been.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's one thing. It's one thing when it's a domestic league and as a collective we can make decisions, and I think it's just another one. It's European competition. There are teams that outside of England and the UK that have to play their games and.
Well, we already talked about how the Queen in this country. There's some very much pro Queen, and there's some people that don't really care. And UEFA, as a governing body, wouldn't care too much about what's going on in England because they have no, English. So for UEFA and FIFA, it's, regular scheduled programming. But there are, I guess, winners and losers in terms of the clubs and the games cancelled. I look at Chelsea, who have just put Potter in place. I assume they'd welcome a little break to get Potter on, accustomed to things. I even think, me as an Arsenal fan, I wanted that Everton home game to really bounce back from the United one. At the same time, I'm actually glad we don't go straight into Brentford away because I wanted that home game against Everton first, but God knows what's to come next. There was obviously a massive tie in Manchester City and Tottenham this weekend, both undefeated so far, both winning their Champions League fixtures. So it's a weird place that has kind of been cut, and it'll be interesting to see where these games get put back later down the line and that international break, what really happens on the international break. The squads have started getting released. Brazil have released their squad recently. A lot of Arsenal fans have had something to say about it. Gabriel, centre-back Martinelli and Jesus, all not selected for Brazil. James, I'm going to start with you first because the Brazil manager was in attendance recently at an Arsenal game, right? So there is a lot of talk.
Yeah, I think so.
To these players.
All second-hand info I've been seeing from Twitter and people that I deem very reliable, I suppose, that I think it's because, especially in the case of, it might be the case of all 3 players, but certainly Jesus is one of them. The places are pretty much guaranteed. Jesus will be at that World Cup, and he wants to see other players. I'd be surprised if both Martinelli and centre back Gabriel Magalhaes's places were so guaranteed, but maybe not. I mean, I know that there was a discussion on the watch along. I know some people aren't overly convinced by Gabriel's performances recently at the back, but I still think there's something about him. His 6'3", 6'4" stature, dominant in the air, and he has his clumsy moments, but I actually think more often than not he does come across a really solid defender for us. So I wouldn't be overly surprised if he was sort of booked to go. And Martinelli, I think, is only going from strength to strength. Zurich wasn't actually his best game. I thought he was quite wasteful in that, looked like he was trying to do a little too much. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if all three of their places booked. But I think largely that's a good thing for Arsenal. They're gonna get some time off, and then come back for the North London derby. I think, while we are talking about something sad, which is the passing of Her Majesty the Queen, there's an Arsenal. There's a what's the word? There's a consequence for Arsenal in the way that things have changed and where these fixtures are now going to get placed and how that changes the dynamic slightly. So I imagine we'll probably explore that in a bit. But the three Brazilians are out the squad, and they'll probably be in it for the World Cup, I imagine. I'm not particularly worried about it.
I remember seeing last week that Thomas Partey is in the Ghana squad apparently, and he apparently is injured for us. I don't know what's going on there. Lee, what was you going to say?
No, I find it very very strange. I see what everybody's saying about Brazil, but I find it very strange when I looked at their squad the other day, and Thiago's still in there. Thiago Silva, and he's 36, 37. I think pretty sure that he'd be. I don't think they know too. I think he could be rested, couldn't he? What I mean? I think if he was guaranteed game, unless he's got to prove himself again. Neymar's in that squad. I know that Neymar's not been playing that much, and maybe that's why that he was in there. But for me, if I was Martinelli and Gabriel, I'd be a little bit more worried than Jesus. I think Jesus probably 90% sure of getting in there, and maybe have said something. Or Edu is very, very does get on with the Brazilian national manager, what I mean. And just
what are you saying there, Lee? What are you insinuating there, my friend?
We've got a small squad. Just leave them out for this game, what I mean. We've got Spurs coming up.
For them, didn't he?
He did.
I'll get Richarlison travelling all around the world. I'll play in both games for you, and then I'll make sure you're all nice and fresh for the North London derby. Cheers, mate. See you later on. Follow the champus on the way to you, So, and if that is the case, I might change my allegiances and become Brazilian supporter. I quite like that. What I mean? So, I find it very, very strange that if that has happened. From an Arsenal point of view, let's get to it's disappointing from that. But from our point of view, I think that Thomas Partey now misses 2 games. Is not going to miss 2 games that he saying that he'll probably be injured when they come back up. But the thing is now, we will be without Thomas Partey the weekend. And there was that sort of talk that maybe he'd be available for the Brentford game. So it'd be very interesting now to see if he's available on the Thursday and plays on the Thursday. Because if he plays on the Thursday, then I imagine he'll go to the Ghana games as well. So now all of a sudden, where I've wanted him to come back against Everton, I don't want him playing Thursday. I want him now, nicely rested so that he's nice and fit for the North London derby. But the other argument is he'll probably need a game or 2.
I've not heard the permutation, or not read the permutations yet of the next few weeks, and having delayed and postponed games has on Arsenal. But what I really don't want us to do is, as a fan base, is to make excuses and talk about, but we would have had this game, and but the postponements and the international breaks and the call-ups affect this. Because over the course of the season, I'm a believer that generally things even out and you'll get your breaks along the way. I hope we don't make excuses for the rearranging of games and the players that are called up or not called up. And on Thomas Partey, I don't know about you lot, but we were talking pre-season a lot about whether we need to get a midfielder in to supplement he who I won't name, or replace him and upgrade that guy. But I think the focus now needs to move towards Thomas Partey. And I'm now moving to the thinking of doing what we've done with Tierney and almost not selling him, not binning him. But I wonder if we need to sign a midfielder in January, that is someone that comes in for Partey now,
Yeah.
because his injury record for me is just, I think I'm close to being done, and I'm very upset saying that, because I really rate him, and I was really excited when we signed him, but I don't think, for all the good games he's had for us while he's been here, I still think there's 20% more. But my fear is that we won't get that 20% more, because he can't put a run together of 10 games without staying fit. He can't put a significant run together. And I just think to myself, we're going to be ruthless and really push for this top 4 spot, and even look beyond that to challenge for titles in the next couple of seasons. I just wonder if it's time now for us to start looking at another midfielder, and not to back up Thomas Partey, but actually replace him.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. You know, I think midfield has become more of a priority now the season started, and you saw where a couple of the injuries have been. And then he only signed a 1-year contract. Partey started the season in the same vein. He's ended the last couple with injuries. We already, well, by we, me and you, Jordan, already wanted an upgrade on Granit Xhaka. So we're probably looking at it like, well, we need 2 big names into that midfield come next summer. I know you mentioned January, but this club in January, they don't really go hand in hand. So I'm not looking at January as a month we're going to really make an impact into this squad.
But that would be supremely disappointing, Turkish, because we saw £25 million late bids go in for Douglas Luiz. That didn't happen. Okay. We then saw £50 million for Rafinha. All right. After that, we went and picked up Zinchenko. But I don't think 35 million of the Zinchenko money came out of the Rafinha money, if that makes sense. I think they had something aside for a wide forward. And then with the World Cup starting, well, basically our last game being, the 8th of November or something, and then us having only 2 at the end of December before the January transfer window opens, there's essentially 2 months. The January window in my head is 3 months long, or at least 2.5, you know, because they've got all that time. You know, they're not going to be sitting there, you know, with a can of Coke watching the World Cup, enjoying their time off. They're going to be trying to get ready for that return, but also get ready for the month. And we already know we're quite thin. Now, we, on the back of, you know, the evidence on Thursday night, we might get through this group without really breaking a sweat. I'm going to touch wood as I say that, because you never know. But you know, it will crank up come February and March. It will. And it's not 100%. Just in terms of opposition, also fan expectation. I think, for all we say about the Europa League, we would go straight into the round of 16. You know, if we finish top of that group, we go straight into the round of 16. There's not that round of 32 before. So you win 1 set of ties, and boom, it's the quarterfinals, and everyone starts to get really excited about the competition. So I think they've got to add in January. I think they've got to help this squad through what would be another congested, with 2 extra games, by the way, because it looks like the Everton and Brentford games wouldn't be played till then. And I think they've got to add it. I think 2 players, whether it's a midfielder and a wide forward, or 2 midfielders, as you've alluded to there with the Partey situation. But yeah, I think they've got to add in January and give us that extra. Was it? Well, Spurs did it when they added Kulusevski and Bentancur. We need we need that window, actually. But Man United, even a couple of years before, when they added Bruno Fernandes,
a lot of people actually say, you know, towards the end of the window, where was Arsenal really trying to nail down maybe an extra player or 2 for depth? It was wing and midfield. And a lot of people insinuate that if we had the January that Tottenham had last January, we would be in a perfect position with Kulusevski and Bentancur or similar going into this season. That's why I'm worried about January coming up, because we failed to do it last January, and I felt like we have to do something. Sorry, Lee.
No, I feel James makes a great point. There's 2.5 months the next window, and I agree. I think that they've they're playing people for the January. I think they tried to move it up a little bit because of Elneny's injury. I do think that they'll probably go for Danilo. Is it the Brazilian? I think that there's lots of rumours saying that they're playing that in January, but they tried to get it pushed forward but couldn't. So that would look to be a good thing. But for me now, you know, is the wide player such necessary after what I see on Thursday night?
Yeah,
and Marquinhos. I think he could save Arsenal a hell of a lot of money, and I'm excited about that, because we can put that money into the midfield area now and maybe save ourselves a 50, 60 million on getting a wide player, because what I see of him the other day, I know it was only Zurich and all that, but that was impressive. It was as an impressive debut as I've seen, you know what I mean? So I don't know how you guys feel about that, but am I being a little bit too overzealous saying that, or do we feel that we could save money now on that one?
I think we all are. I think, we've all been guilty of it in the past, and we might be guilty of it now. But he did have a solid debut. Like you said, it is Zurich, and we have to see more moving forward. And hopefully, you are right. Hopefully, he does hit the ground running in the league, and he becomes that depth that Saka needs, that competition that Saka needs, and he starts taking some minutes, and he continues development. But he is young. This is a new league to him. It is a very physical and demanding league. It was only Zurich. So as much as I agree with you, Lee, I think I'm happy with his debut, and I'm intrigued to see how much competition he can give Saka in the league. I'm also hesitant to say we've answered our questions on the wings yet. Jordan, I think you wanted to step in there.
No. I mean, I would invest whatever money we have, transfer kitty-wise, into two midfielders now anyway. I mean, he had a really good debut, Marquinhos, on Thursday. I wouldn't be putting too much emphasis on that performance going forward. He's young, he's new, let him bed in. It was a good performance. But even if it wasn't, I would still prioritise the budget on at least one midfielder, because I just ultimately feel that will be the part of the pitch that I think this season will cost us. On the Europa League itself, it wasn't great. I don't think it was okay. I think it was an average performance. We got the job done, but I'm a big believer.
Worst performance of the season.
It was for me.
As if performances goes,
I'll take that.
So would I. It was 6 out of 10 for me.
You know,
it was 6 out of 10 for me. It wasn't great, but it wasn't awful. But I'm a big believer in cup competitions. Just win. I expect good performances in league games, but in cup, just win. I don't care how you play. Just get through to the next round. Just get the 3 points in the group stage. Just win. So I'm not too bothered about the performances there, to be honest. But we got the job done, and on we go. And the other result helped us as well. The draw in the other game helps us too. So
you're right.
I wanted to
let's get the job done.
No, sorry. Go on, Takish.
No, that was it.
All right. I wanted to just one more thing on Marquinhos. I didn't really sort of take this in until I watched back the goals. His goal, I mean, when you're running onto it with speed, it's actually taken a slight deflection. So he's having to sort of quickly readjust with his weaker foot. Buries it. No fluke about that. I mean, that was a great finish. But also his assist for Nketiah. Now, remember earlier in the first half, he'd actually whipped in a nice ball to Martinelli. People, I'm not comparing the players, but it was Mahrez-esque. You know, when you kind of pinned your fullback and you kind of cut on your left, and it's a really lovely whipped ball. Yeah. And what he did with Nketiah, what got me? This is where I thought, wow, this is talented. There's hardly any backlift. If you watch that assist back on the Nketiah one, there's hardly. It wasn't a big swing of a like a real majestic cross to the back post. He seemed to just kind of like with barely any movement, just whip it so effortlessly. It's gone a long way. It's gone quite high. It's curled and it's made its way to the back post, right onto Nketiah's head. And it just it looked really effortless, and sometimes you see that in a player and you just think, wow, that looked a little too easy for you. So I think in terms of that will be something Arteta likes, because I think Arteta, I don't think he's overawed by the trickery, the step overs, cutting inside, then dropping a shoulder, going down the line. I don't think he's that bothered. If you got it, great. But I think he wants efficiency. He wants real delivery and quality when that cross and that ball goes into the box. You see that in the way Man City's wingers have played. Sterling and Sane are ultra talented, but what did Guardiola have them doing? Hug the touchline and then boom, running beyond and cross it. And then it's the same with Mahrez. Pin your fullback, drop the shoulder, whip it in. They're not doing what, say, Luis Diaz does for Liverpool or Wilfried Zaha, which is the flair, the step overs, the taking on 3 men at once. And I think if Marquinhos can quite quickly master that ability to basically always get the ball really effectively into the box from wide areas, I think Arteta's going to like him a lot and use him a lot. And I think there was evidence of that against Zurich. So we'll see how he does against, with all due respect to Zurich, how he does against Premier League opposition. I think those minutes will come for him soon. But his delivery was really impressive, and how efficient he was.
Yeah, and he brings something different than Martinelli. So Martinelli, Jesus, and then Marquinhos, all Brazilian front three, might be something to look out for and give Saka somewhat of a rest when it gets to that time of the season.
You see, sorry, Tug. You see with Martinelli, see how he takes players on, but it's more often than not kick and run. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. He's not blowing their minds with trickery, is he? He's just, I'm quicker than you. You're not going to keep up with me, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna hold you there, and then I'm gonna go. So I think he likes just effectiveness and efficiency in that role. So yeah, sorry, carry on.
Well, Marquinhos man of the match for us in that game. Anyone disagree?
No, Vieira was very good.
He was. Aside from Marquinhos and a couple others, I think it's very hard to take much away from the Zurich game. I think, like Jordan said, just win the games, especially early on. If you can see off the group in the first 3-4 games, that puts you in a good position considering the fixture congestion, the World Cup, and all that. So just get the job done. We have got PSV next Thursday. Lee has alluded that the European games will be going ahead, so we will be back to preview that PSV game. We won't touch on it now. But in terms of that Zurich game, any other thoughts and comments before we wrap it up here?
No, I think it was a job done. You know what I mean? Like I'm with Jordan on that. Don't care how you get the result. It's about getting those results, and we get through that game with resting players as well. All in all, good night's work.
One last word. Not that I expect him to be tested at all, really, but Matt Turner. He's very quickly become the brunt of some jokes for Arsenal fans, and I get it, like, because of the debut against Nuremberg and whatever. But
nickname Amphia.
What's that?
Nickname Amphia.
Why?
Amphia Turner.
It's a joke that's gone over my head.
He's too young, Lee. He's too young.
Too young, right? Yeah, too young, right?
Amphia Turner.
I'll let you look.
Well, I've heard it. I'm not claiming that one, but that's what that's his new nickname right now.
Anyway, so my point is,
that is brutal. Really sorry.
Anyway,
I'm not claiming it. I'm not claiming it.
Did what he had to do. It's a small thing for goalkeepers, catching a lot of balls. I know that sounds really silly. People are like, well, you're impressed he caught balls. Sometimes when you're under pressure, you've not made a great start. You just want to punch it clear, whatever. I think he just did his job very quietly, and his distribution was quite good. And I think we're going to be fine with Turner, especially for the group. So you guys are having
I'm glad you think that. I think he should be doing. I think he should be doing your job.
Matt Turner Hive here. I'm going to put it in the comment section. I'll put Matt Turner Hive, like if you're joining.
Anthea Turner really got to Jordan. You can't even hold it in.
I'm going to have to look this up. We have a WhatsApp group?
For our international viewers.
I get the reference.
For our international viewers.
TV presenter from the 90s, 2000s. Don't worry, we'll show you, James. We'll show you.
That is so rude. That is so rude.
Anthea Turner. Anthea Turner. That's the old... They've been singing it in the North Bank and the clock come next game.
Let's hope not. Let's hope Ramsdale's in goal. All right. Before I go, I want to bring up the prediction tables. This is
it's been top of the league more. It's been top of the charts longer than ever. It's a joke, isn't it? Like, what's going on here?
Well, none of us have got a correct score for a little while. James and Jordan predicted
some have never.
3-0. So we all got a point.
Yeah, so what did we say? We both said 2-1, Jordan, did we?
2-0.
Sorry, we said 2-0.
I said 3-0 and 2-0.
Yeah.
You said 3-1, sir, didn't you?
3-0. So we all got a point. That's it. No one got the correct score. 8-6. James, Lee at the top, Jordan and myself joint second, joint fourth, whatever you want to class it as. There's the table, people. And that is it for the day. Hope you guys have enjoyed another Fourever Arsenal podcast. Let us know in the comment section thoughts, comments. Should the games have been cancelled? Should they not have been cancelled? Keep your respectful, people. Just give us your thoughts, and we'll be back before the PSV game and we'll see what happens with the Premier League fixtures next weekend. We all think they're going to be postponed. It seems like they have been informed about being postponed, but until it hits the fans, we can't comment on it. Love for the love, people. Hit the like button on the